Here's a fact that will completely change the way you think about getting older. In Okinawa, Japan, the region that scientists have dubbed one of the world's greatest longevity hotspots, adults in their 70s and 80s are not shuffling through their days. They are not gripping walkers or dreading staircases. They are squatting in their gardens. They are walking to the market without assistance. They are sitting cross-legged on the floor and standing back up with the ease of someone half their age. And the most remarkable part? Their doctors are not surprised by this at all. Because Japanese physicians have known something for decades that Western medicine is only now beginning to take seriously. Leg strength and circulation are not just fitness concerns. They are survival concerns. A landmark analysis published in the Journal of Internal Medicine tracking longevity patterns across Okinawa over nearly 50 years found that the daily physical habits of this population, habits so simple they barely register as exercise, are directly linked to their extraordinary rates of healthy aging. Meanwhile, in Western countries, the picture looks completely different. Nearly 40% of adults over the age of 60 report difficulty rising from a chair without using their arms. 1 in 3 adults over 65 will experience a fall this year, and according to data from the British Medical Journal, falls are now the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. Not heart attacks, not strokes, falls, and almost every single one of them begins with the same silent culprit: weakening legs and failing circulation. The answer comes down to 7 specific movements, rooted in centuries of Japanese daily life and refined through modern clinical research. All of them target not just the surface muscles you can see, but the deep stabilizing muscles and the circulatory pathways that Western exercise programs almost entirely ignore. Today I'm going to walk you through all 7, ranked from highly effective to absolutely life-changing. But before we begin, I need to tell you about the #1 exercise right now. A controlled trial followed adults between the ages of 65 and 85 with significant leg weakness. After just 8 weeks of performing this single movement daily, participants increased their quadriceps strength by over 80%, and several who arrived dependent on walking aids left the study walking independently. I will give you every detail at the end of this video. Stay with me, because that one is worth waiting for. But first, drop a comment below and tell us your age and where in the world you are watching from. We read every single one. Now, let us count down from 7 to 1. Number 7, Ashi-mawashi, seated ankle rotations. We begin with what Japanese doctors call Ashi-mawashi, which translates simply to foot circling. If you visit a community health center in Japan, you will almost certainly see a room full of older adults performing this movement together, often first thing in the morning before they do anything else. It is the opening ritual of dozens of Japanese elder care programs, and there is a very good reason for that. Here is something most people over 60 are never told by their doctors. The ankles are one of the most critical gateways for circulation in the entire lower body. When you sit for extended periods, blood begins to pool in the legs and feet. The ankle joint acts as a kind of pump, and when it stops moving regularly, that circulatory flow slows significantly, leading to swelling, stiffness, heaviness in the legs, and in more serious cases, an increased risk of blood clots. A study published in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science found that adults over 65 who performed daily ankle rotation exercises showed a 31% improvement in lower leg circulation after just 6 weeks, along with a meaningful reduction in swelling and a noticeable improvement in how their legs felt throughout the day. To perform Ashi-mawashi, sit in a comfortable chair and lift one foot slightly off the ground. Draw slow, deliberate circles with your toes, 10 full rotations in one direction, then 10 in reverse. Switch feet and repeat. Japanese rehabilitation specialists recommend 3 sessions per day, morning, early afternoon, and before bed. Each takes less than 2 minutes. Keep the circles slow and controlled. That is what activates the surrounding muscles rather than simply moving the joint. Number 6, Kakato Age, heel raises. The 6th exercise is called Kakato Age, which means heel raising. Walk through any traditional neighborhood in Japan, and you will notice elderly residents performing this in the most ordinary moments of their day. At the kitchen counter, waiting at a crossing, pausing in conversation. It has become so woven into daily life that most Japanese seniors do not even think of it as exercise. Your calf muscles serve a function that goes far beyond walking. Physicians often refer to them as the body's second heart, and that is not a poetic expression, it is anatomical fact. Every time they contract, they squeeze the veins in your lower legs and push blood back upward toward the heart against gravity. When those muscles weaken with age, the pumping action becomes less effective, circulation slows, and the legs themselves begin to lose strength at an accelerating rate. Heel raises interrupt that cycle directly. A clinical study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found meaningful gains in calf strength, ankle stability, and, crucially, walking speed in older adults who performed regular calf raise training. Walking speed is now considered by many physicians to be one of the most reliable predictors of longevity in older adults, sometimes called the sixth vital sign. Stand facing a wall with your palms lightly against it for balance. Slowly rise onto the balls of your feet. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds at the top. Then lower yourself back down with control. That descent matters. Lowering slowly against gravity builds more muscular strength than the upward phase alone. Aim for 20 repetitions, 3 times per day. Number 5. Koshi Mawashi. Standing hip circles. Exercise number 5 is called Koshi Mawashi, which translates to hip rotation. This movement forms part of Rajyo Taiso, the national morning exercise tradition broadcast on Japanese public radio every day since 1928. Millions of Japanese people, many of them well into their 70s and 80s, still begin each morning with these movements. Japanese rehabilitation physicians will tell you that the hips are where healthy aging either holds together or begins to fall apart. They are the central pillar of your lower body, and when that pillar weakens, the consequences spread outward. Knees absorb forces they were never designed to handle. The lower back compensates in ways that produce chronic pain. The legs lose stability faster than they should. What makes this worse is that Western exercise programs almost always focus on the major muscles of the leg while leaving the hip joint itself undertrained. You can have strong quadriceps and still have a hip that does not move freely, and a hip that does not move freely will eventually compromise everything downstream. Koshi Mawashi addresses this directly, restoring the range of motion that a life spent in chairs steadily erodes. Stand with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart and place your hands gently on your hips. Make slow, smooth circles with your hips, 10 rotations in one direction, then 10 in reverse. Keep the movement deliberate. A moderate, controlled circle is far more beneficial than a large, careless one. If you feel any pinching or sharp discomfort, reduce the size of your circles. Japanese rehabilitation doctors recommend pairing Koshi Mawashi with Kakado Age as a morning sequence. Together, they address both the circulatory pathways of the lower leg and the structural foundation of the hip. Number 4. Sawari Ashi, seated leg extensions. Exercise number 4 is called Sawari Ashi, which means seated leg. Japanese rehabilitation physicians favor it because it builds meaningful strength in one of the most important muscle groups in the body without placing any stress on the joints. That muscle group is the quadriceps, the 4 muscles along the front of your thigh responsible for rising from a chair, climbing a staircase, and catching yourself when you stumble. They are, in the truest sense, your independence muscles. And after the age of 60, adults lose between 3 and 5% of their quadriceps strength every year unless they actively work to prevent it. Over a decade, that adds up to something that fundamentally changes how you move through the world. A clinical trial published in the Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation found that older adults who performed regular seated leg extensions showed significant improvements in quadriceps strength and a considerably improved ability to rise from a chair without assistance. For many participants, the difference between needing help with daily activities and managing independently. To perform Sawari Ashi, sit in a sturdy chair with your back supported and feet flat on the floor. Slowly straighten one leg until it is parallel to the floor. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower it with control. Repeat with the other leg. Begin with 10 repetitions on each leg and work toward 20. Once 20 feels manageable, add light ankle weights, no more than 1 kilogram each to start, which increases muscle demand without stressing the knee joint. Number 3. Shagamu, the modified squat. Exercise number 3 is called Shagamu, which means to crouch or lower oneself. This is where Japanese medical thinking and conventional Western advice part ways. Many Western physicians tell older patients to avoid squatting entirely out of concern for joint stress. Japanese rehabilitation doctors disagree, and their argument is grounded in simple observation. In Japan, squatting was never engineered out of daily life, and the result is a population whose lower bodies remain functional and strong well into old age. It is not squatting that damages aging joints. It is the years of not squatting that leaves the joints unprepared and the surrounding muscles too weak to support the movement safely. A study published in Scientific Reports confirmed that even shallow squatting, performed consistently, produced meaningful improvements in lower limb strength in older adults. Depth mattered far less than consistency. Stand in front of a sturdy countertop or table and hold it lightly with both hands. Slowly lower your body by bending your knees and sending your hips back, as though about to sit in a chair placed behind you. Go only as far as you can while remaining in full control and feeling no pain. Hold for 3 seconds, then press through your heels to stand. Begin with 5 repetitions and add 1 more each week. Your joints need time to adapt. Be patient with the process. Number 2. Katashi Dachi, single leg standing. The second most important exercise is called Katashi Dachi, which translates to one-legged standing. It looks almost too simple to be significant. And yet what is happening inside your body during that seemingly effortless act is anything but simple. When you stand on one leg, your brain sends rapid signals through your nervous system, recruiting the deep stabilizing muscles of the ankle, knee, and hip, muscles that rarely get activated during ordinary movement, but are precisely the ones that catch you when you trip. The reason so many older adults fall is not simply that their legs are weak. It is that these stabilizing muscles have been underused for so long, they no longer respond quickly enough when needed. A large study published in the BMJ found that balance training was among the most effective strategies for reducing falls and fall-related injuries, and falls are the leading reason older adults lose their independence and transition to assisted living. Stand near a wall or sturdy chair. Shift your weight onto one foot and lift the other just an inch or 2 off the ground. Hold for as long as you comfortably can. Work toward 30 seconds on each foot and eventually a full minute. Practice during daily moments, while brushing your teeth, waiting for the kettle, standing at the counter. Brief, frequent sessions train balance more effectively than one long session because they work under the real conditions of daily life. Once this feels stable, try closing your eyes. This significantly increases the demand on your stabilizing muscles. Always keep your support within reach. Number 1. Tachi Sawari, the stand and sit. And now we have arrived at the exercise I told you about at the very beginning of this video. The one I asked you to stay for. The one that Japanese rehabilitation doctors consider, without exception, the single most important movement an older adult can perform for leg strength, circulation, and long-term independence. It is called Tachi Sawari. It translates simply to stand and sit. And I understand if your first reaction is skepticism. Standing up and sitting down, that is the exercise? But hold that thought, because what I'm about to share with you changed the thinking of an entire clinical research team. Researchers recruited 120 adults between the ages of 65 and 85 with significant leg weakness. Half practiced Tachi Sawari daily for 8 weeks. The other half received standard care. The results, published in Experimental Gerontology, were not what anyone expected. The Tachi Sawari group increased their quadriceps strength by close to 90%. Their hamstring strength increased by over 70%. Their balance scores improved dramatically. And a number of participants who arrived using walkers were walking independently by the end of it, not with reduced assistance. Independently. After 8 weeks of standing up and sitting down, No surgery, no medication, no equipment, just a chair. The reason this movement is so powerful is that rising from a seated position requires you to lift your entire body weight against gravity, essentially a loaded squat, but with two critical advantages. The chair gives you a precise target on the way down, and if you feel unsteady at any point, you simply sit back. That safety net removes the fear that often limits how hard older adults push themselves. Without that fear, the muscles work at a level they rarely reach in other exercises. And crucially, the movement activates not just the major leg muscles, but the deep stabilizing muscles around the hips and knees, the ones most exercise programs never reach, all at once in a motion your body already knows how to do. To perform Tachi Sawari correctly, choose a sturdy chair without armrests. Sit with your feet flat on the floor, hip width apart, and cross your arms over your chest. Do not use your arms to push up. Lean slightly forward from your hips, then press through your heels and rise to standing. Pause at the top, then slowly lower yourself back down. Do not drop into the chair. Control every inch of the descent. That lowering phase is where much of the strength building happens. Begin with 10 repetitions twice per day, morning and evening. Each repetition should take about 6 seconds, 3 up, 3 down. Add 2 repetitions each week until you reach 30 per session. Research suggests 30 twice daily is the threshold at which benefits are maximized. Once comfortable, progress by holding light weights against your chest or using a slightly lower chair. There you have it. 7 exercises that Japanese doctors have been recommending for generations, now backed by clinical research from around the world. From Ashimawashi, which you can perform before your feet even touch the floor in the morning, to Tachi Sawari, the movement that has helped older adults reclaim independence they thought was gone for good. All 7 together take around 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes for stronger legs, better circulation, greater balance, and a meaningfully reduced risk of the falls that are the single greatest threat to independence in later life. Start small, build consistently, the results will come. We would love to hear from you. Which of these 7 exercises are you going to start with? And if you have already been doing any of them, tell us in the comments how long it took before you noticed a real difference. Drop your thoughts below. We read every single one. And if this video has been useful to you, please share it with someone who might benefit. Thank you sincerely for watching.